guys. I'm just going to jump right to it because I got to go to Vancouver this morning. So we're going to jump right into my usual kind of, hey, Jeff, how's the market looking? Starting off on the Oregon side, lockbox activity, this being obviously every time Jeannie and I show a house to somebody, we open up the lockbox to get the keys to open the door, registers a hit. So kind of your weekly look, week over week, Oregon activity is up 4.2%. If you remember last week, it was down a little bit. So we're kind of bouncing back quite a bit. Puts us back pretty much on par with same time last year, which is somewhat interesting because it feels remarkably busier than this time last year, but so it is, right? We're right there. Vancouver, pretty much the same thing, is up 8.2%. They had a bigger drop off last week. I think they were down 14%, something like that last week. So back up 8.2, which is also a nice healthy bounce. And if you can kind of look back, I know it's hard to see far back on something this size, but puts them back around the same pace of visits and door openings as they saw same time last year. So nice little bounce back, and everything's looking good there. So with that said, I just want to jump into kind of some of the key headlines that we're seeing in the market, things that you'll be seeing in the press, as depending on what news sites you read. And they're probably not the same ones I look at, obviously, but some of them are. But nevertheless, they're the same kinds of themes and concepts you're going to hear pretty much anywhere, right? So right now, you're hearing all across the place. And also pay attention to this photo. This turns out to be very valuable stock photography. I saw the same picture on probably 4 different articles, 4 different news sources. So anyway, but yeah, U.S. home sales rising to a 14-year high in October. I know you're hearing this left and right, that the real estate market has just been crazy on a national basis, certainly here in the Portland area. So it's definitely, things are exploding. And everybody's talking about the same thing. The prices are up because, hey, mortgage rates are way down. You got an exploding base of buyers. Millennials are buying. You had pent-up demand coming from the Great Recession, so on, so forth. And now, if nothing else, you've got a lot of people who are stuck at home or working from home, and they're recognizing, I need a house, or I need a bigger house, or I need just a different layout to sustain school from home and work from home. So fueling a lot of sales. The problem that's causing, and it's the same house and same sign, just a slightly different angle, is obviously inventory. And you hear this from us all the time. There's just no inventory. I share this every week. Last month, we ended at 1.1 months of inventory, 2 months in a row at 1.1, which is the lowest it has ever been in the Portland metro area. So this is on a national basis. This is not just Portland. We are not special here. There are not enough homes in almost every market across the United States. So now you're seeing the same types of headlines of, we got to build more houses. It just has to happen. The push is there. The need is there. You come out of the Great Recession where we had about a 10-year gap of undersupply. You had a lot of home builders who had to exit the market. They went bankrupt. They scaled way back. And then they're obviously very nervous to start rebuilding on a big scale again, given how much financial risk is involved for them. So it created this huge glut. And then as the market expands, demand expands and so forth, there's just no houses. So kind of to put this into a little bit of visual perspective. So this is on a national basis in the United States. I've shared this type of look for the Portland metro area, but this is the national basis just to show you what we're seeing everywhere. You see kind of pre run up of the Great Recession inventory. We're plugging along at about 2 million homes in any given month. We're on the market available for sale. Seem fairly good. The market died, and those sales ballooned up to almost 3.5 million as the market just ground to a halt. And then obviously you see the kind of the steady, it's bouncing, but it's the steady decline down to where we're at now of 1.2 months or 1.2 million homes available for sale. So you're looking at a 35% drop in available homes. This is on a national basis. So it's, if you think about it, it's somewhat fascinating. And if you're trying to buy a house, sell a house, move, whatever, it's terrifying on some level too, because there's just not enough homes out there. And then lastly, I just want to kind of share this look. This is what I thought was an interesting perspective. This is looking back at October, obviously in 5-year increments, going back to 1985 to show you kind of a historical perspective on a national basis, months of inventory of homes that are available for sale. So on a national basis, 2.5 months. But you go back to 1985, there were 9 months. 1990, there were 10 months. October 2010, 10 months in the Great Recession. So we're down. This is record territory, and it's just kind of crazy. So, and with that, you've had a lot of things, a lot of positive factors that are helping spur more home purchases, despite kind of the lack of available homes to buy. And there's only really one thing that's going against the housing market right now, right? So credit has eased up, and no, we're not back to the pre-Great Recession run-up of the ninja loans, the no income, no job loans. There's no loose underwriting. It's gotten easier. So it's just put a little asterisk next to that one. And if you want to see how easy it is to get a mortgage right now, talk to your favorite mortgage broker, and they'll tell you you still need to qualify, and they're going to underwrite you pretty hard. But the credit has eased, which has helped, right? Your home buying power that's going to be related to your mortgage rates, job creation, income growth, and so forth. That's moved in a positive direction. New household formation, people getting married, people moving out, so on and so forth. You see a little tiny sliver of new supply, and it's not much, but there's a little. They're trying to build. But that very last one is this creates a negative drag on the housing market, which is the average tenure. Meaning it used to be every 5 to 7 years people would sell a house and move, and now that's closer to 10 years. So you've stretched, say, 3 years. If you want to look at, say, 7 years to 10 years, people are staying put longer. And this is going to go back to a number of things. It's going to go back to COVID, certainly. Right now, people are sort of hunkering down and staying put on a grander scale. Secondly, as homes have become more and more expensive, it's harder for those first-time buyers to crack in. So you've got more people who are, say, graduating college and then moving back into mom's basement. Is kind of a lot of people like to joke about it. But you have multi-generational families are breaking out, whether it's to help with the parents or it's just the kids need a little bit more time to save up some money to branch off on their own. And rather than paying exorbitant rents and apartment rents or other things, they're just moving back in with parents. So that tenure has created a little bit of a drag. And whether this part remains permanent and this is a marked demographic expansion of how long people stay in a house, or if this is just sort of a window of time, to be seen, right? But it's something interesting. So that said, hey, we've got supply is way down. We've got demand is up. We exacerbating, I guess, the availability of homes in the market. People staying put a little bit longer. You hear from me all the time, supply, demand. I love this chart. As a homeowner, I love this chart. Your average and median sales price. This is the Portland metro area. And this goes back to 2012. So obviously this has eclipsed out the Great Recession because it got a little ugly there for a few years. But to say it's back is it's a far cry. So we're at 11.5% year over year. And just follow your trend line. Follow your 8-year trend line. It's up. It's going up, and honestly, the only thing that derails home value growth would be a slowdown in sales, which that slowdown in sales is going to come from either higher mortgage rates, excess supply, more competition, something that's going to dilute the market, and it's just not there. So that's your good news, bad news. If you own a house or if you're trying to buy a house, it's getting a little bit pricey there. So. And obviously, we're seeing a lot of competition here, and this is on a national basis, but it certainly is true here in the Portland metro area. We're seeing homes that are getting multiple offers on the first day. It's crazy, and that's kind of your market. And I know this turned out to be a little bit of an eye chart. I got the big red arrow pointing to a thing. But basically, it's homes that are near sort of your typical average price, basically, so your average price home. So in this case, Portland metro area, think about kind of your average entry level to average price, so 500 and below type of thing. You're seeing those are selling above list price on a national basis, and all it really means is just reinforces something that you probably have heard us say multiple times, which is entry level homes obviously are the highest demand because of the price point. It's just sort of the natural progression. And so as you have a point in time like now where millennials are entering the market, you've got new first-time buyers. That's the pool of homes they're going after. So if you're looking at it as like a first-time home buyer, and you're saying, okay, I can go to 400, 425, 450, but it seems expensive for what I'm going to get. Just recognize, go back to that earlier graph of the prices to this, and what are the odds that entry-level home in the Portland metro area is going to decline in value? It's not. And in fact, those homes tend to appreciate at faster rates than higher priced homes. So long-term investment standpoint, it's fantastic. So yeah, it's expensive to be a first-time buyer in the Portland area. I'd also say it's probably one of the smartest things you can do in a market like this, where prices are on the rise, and I just don't see what's going to derail that anytime soon. So we got prices going ballistic. We got rates are helping it. As prices go up, people keep asking, how do people afford homes in the Portland metro area? So that's something that does get covered. It gets reported and tracked. It's basically a home affordability index, right? So in this index, it's 0 to 100, or actually it goes way north of 100. But at 100 on this index, basically it means the average family in Portland, average income, can afford the average home in Portland. In this case, 516, 400, or call it $515,000 with a 20% down payment. You can afford that mortgage, 100% of it. If you're at say 90%, you can only afford 90% of that mortgage and thus that home. So it basically says homes are not necessarily overvalued, but it's just not a lot of people can afford them because it's outgunning. Similarly, if you're say at 150% on that index, then it just means you can afford 150% of that mortgage, which means the affordability is great. You have no problem with it. It's nice and easy. So let's talk about affordability in the Portland metro area. Two series of charts, top and bottom. The top chart, I wanted to show this affordability index in the times around the Great Recession, sort of running up to it, in the midst of the run up, and then kind of what we saw sort of on the other side, if you will, right? So in the middle of that chart, we were fever pitch 2006, 2007. Prices were ballistic. It was bananas, and we got as low as around about 90 on that index. So homes were unaffordable. Prices got too hot, too fast. The job growth wasn't there. The income wasn't there. It just was not there. And then you start seeing the whipsaw effect on the tail end of that one. And then it sort of dovetails into a little bit of a time jump here, but it dovetails into the lower index, which shows now through current time. So you see a little bit of the hangover effect from the Great Recession, where prices had tanked. Mortgage rates were coming back down. So all that swung in favor of homeowners making those mortgage payments. So that range got up over 180, which means you could afford 180% of that mortgage, which meant no problem. That's an easy mortgage. And then you fast forward to now, and we're about 128%, or 128 on the index, meaning the average family can afford the average home, 128% of that mortgage. So they got it covered, no problem. So prices are ballistic. And it's still, I would argue, very affordable for a home, for your average family here in the Portland metro area. Now, as rates go up, that's going to water this down. As prices continue to go, that's going to water this down. But then you got to look at wage growth and everything else. This is just one to watch. But for now, there's no signs of red flags, if you will. It's all pretty good. And then the other thing people kind of ask me about on this one is, because we got the jobs, we got the affordability, but we also have COVID, we've got unemployment, we've got the forbearances, and how's all that playing in? So this is a national basis. I can't get this on a Portland basis, right? But if you're looking back kind of throughout the year, your unemployment rate is the yellow bars, and your overall delinquency rate of mortgages are the darker orange ones. So obviously April 2020, your unemployment rate skyrockets, right? That's COVID. And thankfully, we're seeing that slowly taper back off. So this was a lot of short-term layoffs or suspension of your wait staff, bartenders, waitresses, movie theaters, places that just shut down for a while and slowly started reopening for kind of a soft reopen, if you will. On the orange bars, the overall delinquency rate, we saw some more delinquencies pick up on mortgages, people who were unable to pay the bills, and they struggled there. That said, the homes that went into forbearance, those still get reported as current. That was part of the forbearance agreement. So forbearances don't necessarily skew this as you look at the delinquencies of mortgages. Sorry, the joy of a shared office. So the forbearances don't necessarily get picked up in here, but those forbearances, they went up to 8 to 10% of all mortgages, and those have trailed way back down as well. So those have gotten much easier. So all in all, it's not bad from homeowners' perspective. Just something to kind of keep an eye on. So if we don't have the supply, that's the biggest thing that we need to get fixed. In Portland area, we'll struggle because the urban growth boundary, there's no dirt for builders to build on, but beyond that, builders have to want to build, right? If they really want to, they'll find the dirt, they'll make it happen, whether it's infill projects or if you're going to do things like the Frog Pond area down in the Wilsonville area, South Hillsborough development, things of that nature. They'll make it happen if there's a need. So it all comes down to what's kind of referred to as builder confidence. This gets measured on a national basis, gets reported on a regular basis. And this is your 0 to 100 scale, meaning 0, it's Armageddon, the world's exploded, we're never going to build a house again. If they score, say, up to 100, it's the perfect storm, the perfect world. It's a slam dunk, easy money, however you want to define it. That's the best type of score. So this gets color coded, so it's going to be a bit of an eye chart here in the middle, but you see the scale at the top. So light blue is the lowest, red is the highest. So you'll see the Great Recession there in the middle, all those baby blue scores, and that's basically scores in the teens, meaning we're never going to build a house probably again. This is ridiculous. People are going bankrupt, exiting the business. That's your big gap, right? That's when housing starts just ground to a halt. So it worked out from a new construction standpoint to be about a 10-year gap, or at least an undersupply of new construction starts. But you see it clearly articulated. If you look down at the very, very bottom, kind of just to the left, you see a score of 30. That's April of 2020. COVID hit. Everyone paused. They freaked out. The following month, they scored a confidence level at 37. And if you go to the far right now, we're at 90. So at crimson red, 90. Basically, we're approaching, this can't possibly get any better if you're a home builder. They recognize long-term, there's a national shortage of homes everywhere. So that, let's expand operations. Let's build more homes. Mortgage rates are low. Demand is sky high. It's shooting fish in a barrel if you're a home builder at this point. So I want to walk through the colors and the scoring. That went back to 2020. I'm sorry, the 2000. That chart goes back to, I can find this one back to, I think it's 1985. So now it's the eye chart. You can't possibly read it. But to show that visualization, to show you all the other times that we've ever hit red, which going back to 1985 is 0. That's the easiest math of the day. Has some good oranges along the way, short term, but to actually be at a scenario of red, it's unprecedented. So the builders are loving it. They're feeling good. They if you go back to kind of the color coding, they saw the Great Recession coming ahead of time. We saw those scores softening up. There's nothing on the horizon. So if you're still thinking it's a bubble, it's all going to blow up, these prices are artificial, I got bad news for you. Everyone's betting against you at this point. So with builder confidence going sky high, you've got builders their housing starts are at the highest level since 2007, since before the Great Recession. So they're back online. So I kind of anecdotally always say if you had a 10-year gap of production, you need a 10-year oversupply of at least equal terms to offset that. Except now you've got a growing population, you've got more buyers, you got more everything else. So is it a 15-year run, 20-year run? Don't know, but arguably that clock started now. So even if it's a 10-year run, we got a 10-year headache ahead of us. So we'll see how it goes. But they're responding. They are building. That said, it's not without challenges, right? Here's one of your local stories. This was from the Oregonian just the other day. Our timber industry, generational losses is what they're talking about. They're basically saying, there's a 30-year setback in some areas for forestable land on forestable privately held land. Just in a lot of areas, at least in the Portland or in the Oregon area, were lost from the fires. Equipment loss, people out of business, bankrupting a lot of these kind of mom and pop loggers, if you will. Some equipment, some heavy equipment was insured, some of it was not. Losses are significant. It's a bad news thing. So now it's going to put more pressure on. If you're going to do more forestation to get more wood products to build homes, you're going to have to go more on public lands. And if you're a true Oregonian, you know what's going to happen next. Cue the protests, and we got to save the owls and spotted lizards and the whole 9 yards. So good luck to you there getting those lands logged. So we've got a little bit of a shortage on raw materials, and this is your lumber prices from going back to the beginning of 2020 to where we are now. They're up dramatically. They had, I think, framing prices are basically doubled. Now with COVID, new rules of staying separated from socially distancing from people. Construction crews got to be a little bit lighter. It's going to take longer to build homes. So your prices are going to be going up across the board. I think last time we talked about lumber, we were saying that the average home price was like $16,000 more just from the price of the studs and the walls. It's not even the paint or anything that makes it look pretty. It's just the thing that holds it up. So, all right, that's the big stuff on the supply and demand. I got just a few more things I just want to hit on, because we're going to talk a little bit about one part that's fun to talk about. Everybody keeps talking about everyone's fleeing California. It's the big California exodus. San Francisco's shutting down because no one wants to live there anymore, and so on and so forth. So this popped up of where are they going? So the biggest winner from the California exodus is Texas, which, why? But it's Texas, and I think the greater Austin area is kind of the big winner there, which is not a big shock. If you've been to Texas, that's the one place you'd want to be. I've lived all over Texas, and that's the only place I would go. But so a lot of people heading to Texas, but Oregon is in the top 10. So 37,000 or 38,000 folks were looking to be leaving, at least as they measured it on this data series, coming to the Portland or to the Oregon area, Oregon markets. I think 17,000 were going from Oregon to California, so it's not a total win, but it's a net positive. So we're definitely seeing some already are leaving for what they're going to view as more affordable prices. So yeah, hang on. You're going to see more of the California license plates, and you're going to see more of the so-called California fat cash flying around, snapping up homes and angering the locals. But we'll see what happens. But there is definitely an exodus on the California side. How long that lasts, don't know. There's a lot of talk with COVID vaccines coming out. Does that then make people more comfortable back in dense urban areas, places like Manhattan, places like San Francisco? It'll open back up for sure, and people will return. But for now, it's a net positive for us. So 2 last things I want to hit on, and then we'll wrap this up. What's coming? What's next? Right? What's down the road? The Mortgage Banker Association put out their projections, if you will, for 2021, and a couple of things jumped out here. They are expecting new purchase applications to be a little bit softer next year than they were this year. Womp womp. But it's still the second highest origination total in the last 15 years. This year being the highest. So basically, they're saying next year, yeah, it's still gonna be awesome. It's still gonna be very busy. There's gonna be a lot of activity. But the biggest thing, then, they also opine on where they see mortgage rates going. And this is the piece to look out for, because not only do you have prices going up, you got interest rate risk here, right? So right now they're reporting kind of your average 30-year rate at 2.7%. They're saying roughly probably they're expecting it to be 2.9% by the end of the year. So we'll see if that works out, because we're running out of time for that to happen. But that's their projection, right, as of 6 days ago. And they're also expecting those to rise by 3.3% by next year. So it's going to cost you a little over $100 more a month if that goes from the 2.7 to 3.3. So, and that's just money you're paying for nothing. So if you're looking to do some timing here, heads up on that one. They are expecting rates to go up. There's nothing on the horizon long term that says big increases in rates, though. So I think this is just a little bit of a buoying back up from the rates of the twos. Starting in next year, that might be a little thing that may be yesteryear's news, but we'll see what happens there. But so they very well be increasing a bit next year, but all things considered, staying pretty low and arguably pretty flat. The last piece, and I think this one is the most interesting, and we're going to have to see what comes of this if he's able to get this done or not get this done. And I'll admit, I didn't even realize this during the campaign time. Apparently, one of Joe Biden's campaign promises of something he wants to try to get done is a home buyer credit to help you with down payments, and I don't have the details. As Jeannie was saying, that she thinks it's a tax credit or a tax offset for people who are doing home buying, whether it's first-time home buyers or just you're buying a house. Again, I don't have the details, but in either scenario, if the federal government is going to be doing something from an assistance standpoint to help people get into home ownership, to take the risk off their financial plates from some ever-rising rents and so forth, that's yet another layer of incremental demand we're going to see from buyers out in the market. So with already constrained inventory, one more piece of demand may be coming down the road if he can get it done, to see what happens long term with the Senate, with budgets, with everything else. But who knows? So that's your market update. Long and short, we got no houses. The builders love it. They're starting to build more. So I think we'll get there. We'll start recovering from an inventory basis. It's going to be a long, slow haul. And we may see yet even more buyers coming into the market. Biggest thing now is where do the rates go? But it looks like from between here and the end of next year, I think it's going to be much of the same. This market's just going to keep on going. So that's your update. If you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out to Jeannie or I. You can call us, text us, message us on Facebook, put comments on this video. We see all that. We'll do our best to answer your questions. And otherwise, have a great week. Have a very safe Thanksgiving. If you're getting together with family, please be careful. Wear your masks to keep your distance, or better, stay home.